Hi, today we're going to be working on notes 5-6, which is graph a line given points and slope. Excuse me, you can see right here in number 1 it says find the slope for the given 2 points. So we have the points -2, 4, and 5, -1. And there's 2 different ways you can find the slope given 2 points. You can use a graph like they have right here, or you can use a table, which we'll talk about when we get to number 2. Most students I prefer, or I've found, prefer using a graph, so I'll go ahead and show you how to do that first. All you do is plot your points, so I would do -2, 4, which is going to be right there, and then I've got 5, -1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1 is going to be right there. Before I even start to do anything else, I can see that this line is going down, like a descending line, so that tells me that the slope is going to be negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put my negative sign right there, just so I don't forget to write it later on. And then slope is defined as the change in y over the change in x, and that's a pretty important thing, so you probably want to write that down. In math, we use these little delta triangles to represent the word change. So this means change in y over change in x. So remember, your y-axis is your one that runs up and down. So you're always going to start on your leftmost point, and you're going to calculate your change in y. So basically how far up or down it goes. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I went over, excuse me, to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for my slope, I already have my negative sign there, so I went down 5, and then I went 7 to the right. So I put my change in y over my change in x. So my slope is -5/7 for those 2 points. And really, you should go ahead and connect those dots as well, so that you have a nice line between them. All right, so now we're going to look at what that would look like if you try to do it in a table. The better you get, you'll find that a table is actually faster. It just goes quicker. So if you have 2 points, so I'm going to have my x's over here and my y's over here, and we have a process column, which we really haven't gotten to yet. But I'll do this point is -2, 1, and then this point is 3, 5. And remember, we talked a second ago that slope is defined by the change in y over the change in x. So I'm going to look over here at my y values. The change in y from 1 to 5, it goes up 4. And then my change in x, from -2 to +3, it goes up 5. So I just put my change in y over change in x. So the change in y is 4, and my change in x is 5. So the slope of these 2 points is 4/5. And then I'm going to do another one down here with the graph. So I would graph 3, 7, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 would be right there. Once again, I can tell this is going to be a negative line because of how it's going down on the page. Let me go ahead and connect those 2 points right there real quick. So it's a negative slope. So remember, you're going to start at the one on the left, and you do your change in y. So I'm going to see how far I go down. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I went down 6. And then I went over 1, 2, 3. So I went over 3 to the right. Now this one is a fraction that I can reduce, so I am going to do that. You can do it a couple ways. Some people like to leave it as an improper fraction. So if I leave this as an improper fraction, it would go to negative 2 over 1. Because really what I could do is go down to 1 to the right, and look, there's actually a point that crosses through. Down to 1 to the right. So I can see that it's a pattern each time. Down to 1, down to 1, down to 1. So it's a pattern between those points. That's what makes it linear. You can also write it as a whole number. You just have to remember that anytime you see slope as a whole number, it really means over 1. So either of those two I would count as a correct answer. So then for number 4, I'm going to go ahead and do it in a table like we did a few minutes ago. So I have my x, my process, which we'll get to, and then the y. So my first point is 6, negative 3, and my second point is 7, negative 4. I'm going to look at my change in y. From negative 3 to negative 4, it goes down 1. And then on my x column, from 6 to 7, it goes up 1. So same thing here, change in y over change in x. My change in y is negative 1. My change in x is positive 1, so I'll put that as a 1. You could leave your answer like this, or you could reduce it to the whole number, negative 1, like that. Alright, then on the back, it says find the equation of the line given the slope and additional point on the line. So on these, it gives you the slope and the point, but you can't graph slope until you have a point graphed. So I'm going to graph this point, negative 3, 7, which is right there. The slope is negative 2/3, so I'm going to go down 2 and then 3 to the right. Okay, so you want a fair number of points in order to graph your line. I always told my students to just go ahead and put as many points on the page as you could fit. Ooh, I didn't really do a good job graphing that line there. Trying to do it one-handed. But the main thing that you're looking for, remember we learned in the last lesson that slope-intercept form of a line is y equals mx plus b. So what you really need to have is your m, or your slope, which it gives you right here. And then the other thing that you're going to need is your b, which is your y-intercept. And it doesn't give you that, but if you graphed your points correctly, you can find the y-intercept. So here's my y-intercept right here at 5. So for my equation, I'm going to write y equals m, which is the slope. So that's negative 2/3. And then we write our x plus our b value, which is the y-intercept at 5. So plus 5. So that's our equation, y equals negative 2/3 x plus 5. For number 6, it doesn't give us a graph, so it's kind of asking you to do it in a table, and this is where that process column is going to come in. So you need to draw yourself a table. The point is negative 8, 3. So I'm going to put negative 8. That's my x value, and my y value is 3. My slope value is negative 2. As you can see right here, in the y equals mx plus b, the slope is always that first number. So I know what I'm going to do right here in my process column is I'm going to fill in all of the numbers that I can. So for mx plus b, I know the m is negative 2. That's the slope. X is going to be whatever number is right here. In this case, it's the negative 8. So I'm going to do times negative 8 because it's m times x plus the b value. Now here's where it's a little bit tricky. What you have to do is you have to multiply these two numbers together. So negative 2 times negative 8 is 16. But what you're needing to do is add or subtract some constant value right here to get the total of the column to be 3. So if I'm at 16 and I need the answer to be 3, I'd say how do I get from 16 to 3? Well, the answer is subtract 13. So really what that means is my equation is here's my m, x, and here's my b. That doesn't really look like a subtraction sign. That kind of looks more like a underline. So I'm going to put a minus right here. So for the equation, I'm going to do y equals m is -2. I don't write this x because really any number could go in there. We just had this point. So I'm just going to put an x, and then my b value is -13. That's my y-intercept, -13. Okay, next it says draw a line using the following slope and point. So it says the slope of a certain line is 1/4. The points A at 3, 2 and B at x0 lie on the line. What is the value of x? It looks like the x got cut off right there. We'll pencil him in. All right, so 3, 2 should go right there. And we don't, that's A, and we don't know where B is because we're missing a coordinate right there. However, we do know that the slope is 1/4. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw this line with all the points that I can with a slope of 1/4. So 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. I can't go any more that way, so I'm going to come back and go the other direction. 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4. For some reason my phone's fuzzy. There we go. Okay, so that's what we want it to look like. And then it says the coordinate that we're looking for is x0. So basically we want to know when y is 0, what x is. So here's my y-axis. Here's where y is 0. And when y is 0, I can see that my x value is -5. So the value of x is -5. And this one's kind of the same thing, except for this time we're missing a y value. It says the slope of a certain line is 2. Points A, -4, -3, and B, 0, y, lie on the line. What is the value of y? So A is at -4, -3, which is right there. And B, we don't know where it is. We know the slope of the line is 2, so I'll go up 2 over 1. I'm just going to do that for as many points as I can fit on the graph. And it wants to know the value of y when your x is 0. So here's my x-axis. And when x is 0, I can see that my y value is 5. So the value of y in this case would be 5.